Hey guys and girls, I am going live with Sheila today, and I'm going to tell you a little funny story. A lot of people do not know how to pronounce Sheila's name, and that's because in English we simply do not have a name which resonates with Sheila. With the klank I actually. So hi there. So I'm going to invite Sheila. We are going to talk about impact. So yeah, let's do it. And I don't know, maybe Ellen wants to replay. Okay. Hi, Sheila. Finally, how many times did we try?
It's such a funny story by now.
I really like, how many times did we try?
Yes, he tried a lot of times, but on his account, it's kind of difficult for him to pronounce A.
Yeah, exactly. And I can say like, okay, we've got in Dutch something like 55 ijzeren pijpleidingen, you know, say it op zijn Haags. But well, I try to make a comparison, and I'm still planning on doing a video, but today he got close. He got close. He really tried. But there's no A in English. There's just no A.
So that's why I'm always okay if Anglo-Saxon speaking people pronounce my name as Sheila. It's okay.
Yeah, but he really wanted to know. So
Yes.
that's why I'm trying to give him some examples like, but I said, and I was really thinking about it, and I said, you just don't have a sound like it. So he came up
No,
with
there is
Sheila,
none.
which is quite good, I suppose.
But
So
it was funny though.
yeah, it's quite funny, and he really tries, you know, he's the best. So
Yes,
I can't say
definitely.
anything else. So Shaila and I, we know one another through Evan Carmichael. Evan Carmichael is the YouTube expert, and he gives us monthly challenges. And this month's challenge is about impact. So Shaila, how do you have an impact on other people, or planning to have an impact on other people?
I think the way I try to create impact for other people is by making little changes and by zoning in on people individually instead of a whole mass of people. I'll give you an example if that's okay. Um, I used to be in a wheelchair. Now I'm a Zumba instructor. I kind of created my own therapy to get out of the wheelchair. And I teach regular Zumba classes for regular people, but one of the most rewarding classes is to teach people with disabilities
Okay.
who are either in a wheelchair or who had a brain aneurysm or who had cancer. And most of them are people that felt they would never ever dance again or exercise. And it's well, several of them have told me that after the first class they went home and they cried
Yeah, I guess they did. I
because
totally.
they are able to dance again. And I try to adjust the classes to their level, no matter who it is. I have one participant and she's 80, turning 81 in a month. And yeah, she's having the best time, whether it's hip hop or salsa. She has a great time, even though prior to taking my classes in 2018, she had never even listened to the kind of music that I use in the Zumba classes.
Oh, that's
So
so cool.
that's how I try to create impact or uh, with just a little, it's not even a big adjustment. It's zoning in on what it is they need and see how I can work around it or work with it so that everyone can participate?
Well, being someone who always had mobility issues, I know about adjustments. By the way, did you know that Evan teaches salsa lessons? He's a salsa instructor. And,
Yes,
you know,
I think he mentioned it that he and Nina took classes together.
yeah, but he actually teaches like 5,000 people a year or something. So we
Really?
actually have been dancing together, Evan and I,
Oh,
and I said, dancing to be dancing again is on my bucket list. He said, I don't believe in bucket lists. So even though I could only stand on one foot and a few toes, we did the dancing together. So that was pretty cool. So I'm forever grateful for him doing so. So how did you manage to go from a wheelchair to teaching Zumba lessons? Why were you in a wheelchair for how long, and how did you get better? Because you said you did it yourself.
yes,
Sure,
yes.
tell.
Okay, so about now, it's 25 years ago that I was in a lot of pain. I was just pregnant for 2 months. Yes, 2 months. And I started experiencing a lot of pain in my pelvic area. And uh, 1 month later, I was unable to walk, sit down, lay down, stand, basically be without pain. And since I was pregnant, I was unable to use painkillers. So I just had to wait it out. And I was in bed for at least half a month. I only got out of bed to go to the toilet and to take a shower. Um, and I was thinking, expecting, hoping that by the time that the baby would be born, all the pain and all the issues would be gone. But on the contrary, when the baby was born, it got even worse. And after like November, I went to a specialist and he told me I only had 25% of the muscle strength to live. So that's not to walk, that's not to exercise, to live. So basically, I kind of became a plant. And then he told me that I had to regain my muscle strength and I would need to exercise, which is okay because I've been active, sporting, and exercising all my life. So I was like, okay, I can do that. And he said, yeah, but mind you, even if you do, the pain might not go away. And that's actually what happened. I regained my muscle strength in a few months and maybe 2 or 3 months, but the pain never left my body. So I was in pain practically 24/7 still. And I had a 3-year-old and a baby. And half time, I was a single mom. And so I was the what actually caused the pain is that my hormones still today even think that I have to deliver a baby ASAP, which is not the case because the baby is almost 25 years old
Oh
now.
no.
And I was thinking that if my
Oh,
hormones think,
Shaila, I
yeah,
can't hear you anymore. Yeah, now I can again.
okay, okay. I was thinking that if my
Okay, you are freezing, at least on my side. Well, hopefully we have her back in a second, because I'm rather curious about the rest of her story. Don't know about you. Oh, uh-oh, she's gone. So hopefully she comes back again. If I see her again, I'm going to invite her. So there probably was a bad connection. So there she is again. That must be very traumatizing if your body thinks you still have to deliver the baby.
Zijn we er
Yeah.
weer? We're back
Yeah,
on.
you're here
Sorry
again.
about
So
that.
you ended with that your body still was under the impression that you had to deliver the baby, push it out.
Yep. So I was thinking that if my hormones are as stubborn as I am, and they'll persist on me having to deliver a baby for I don't know how many years, I should create a therapy that enforces my pelvic area. So I would be exercising 2 weeks, and then I would be in pain 24/7 for 2 weeks again. And I started experimenting on how to lower my pain level. And when I finally, after experimenting for 7 years, when I finally reached that point, I decided to become a sports instructor, because then I would have to exercise despite having pain or not. And by creating like a corset around my pelvic area, then I would be able to recreate the strength in that area, and I might be able to have quality of life again. So that's how I became a Zumba instructor.
So basically, you have been training your core stability. Mm-hmm. So the muscles around in the pelvic area and your abdomen, and your lower back, of course. So do they know what caused the hormones to not process that you delivered a baby?
No, and probably if I really want to know, I should go to the US, because the US, I think, is more advanced regarding hormones and hormone therapy and all of those issues. I think here in the Netherlands, it's kind of like a taboo, or we don't focus on it that much, or in any case, not that long. So, but by now I'm like, okay, I know how to handle it. I know how to work around it or work with it. So I'm okay. And even there are days that I'm still in a lot of pain, and it makes me grateful. I don't get upset, angry, or whatever, because it reminds me how far I've come and where I've been. And every day that I'm able to teach, it creates gratitude for me for just being able to teach or being able to walk. I could even walk down the street and feel like, yes, I can walk.
Yeah,
if you haven't been able to move at all for 6 months, a year, or like me, I was 30 and I didn't even know if I would ever walk again.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. I've been on crutches for 7 years. And then this summer, it finally seemed to be going full speed ahead. And then all of a sudden, bam, that was my knee. So first it was my ankle. So I had second surgery 3 years ago. And then my knee caved in. But now I've got a brace for my knee. So I use that when I'm outside or when it's crowded, because I cannot make a sudden twist. But I can walk again. And, every day I'm at the physical therapist. I go there twice a week. And I'm walking, and I'm walking, no crutches. I haven't touched my crutches for like 6 or 7 weeks, other than to move them to another place. So that's, every day I'm grateful. I know the feeling. But the difference between you and me is I'm not in pain, and of course you are. But I know about the importance of helping out other people and doing it on their level. So did you become a fitness instructor, or did you become straight away a Zumba instructor?
No. When I started teaching was 2005. Yeah. I became a steps and body shape instructor, and I would teach aerobics, body shape, body and mind classes, step aerobics. That's what I started off with. But I knew right away I wanted to do something where I could use the music more instead of just dancing and play any kind of song.
Hmm. Okay, makes sense. Well, I actually became a fitness instructor at the end of the previous century, and then I became a medical fitness instructor simply because I wanted to know, okay, this body isn't functioning. I want to
Exactly.
understand how it works. So actually, it was when fitness first came on the scene, which was around the change of the century. And I was talking about freestyle lessons versus block lessons. And then they said, you know what you need to go do? You need to go to Nieuwegein. There's Carl Nolte. Of course, he got discredited at some point, but he taught Holland in movement, Nederland in beweging. And he's actually pretty good because he did a lot of research. So yeah, so I started with fitness instructor, and then I became medical fitness instructor. Then I started doing massages, and then I became a therapist and a coach. So it all started with, okay, why isn't this body functioning the way it is?
It's so funny because we have a similar history and we never even knew. Well,
No,
at
that's
least I
true.
didn't know about you.
Yeah, and I still have the wheelchair in the back of my car. I don't think I'm going to need it anymore. I just don't know. But if I have to stand for a long time, I don't think I can yet. So, especially with a knee, which isn't fully cooperative. But recently, I walked like 3 kilometers. So that's about 2 miles. Um, in one stretch. And that was pretty good, no crutches. I was holding a latte actually. So, yeah, I got myself some breakfast. So that was pretty cool. So, okay, awesome. So, I know you work as an entrepreneur. So, what do? You only teach Zumba lessons, or do you do other stuff as well?
Other stuff as well. I'm a coach
Okay.
ever since 2000. Yeah, ever since 22 years now. And I teach courses. Um, for instance, I teach people how to present themselves. Um, and I sell Zumba wear for the entire country, the Netherlands. Um, yeah, is that it? And every now and then, still, I work as a stylist to teach people how to present themselves more regarding the way they look.
Okay, so would you say your specific topic when it comes to coaching is presentation?
No, not necessarily. When it comes to coaching,
Hmm.
probably my specific topic is how to bounce back, how to come back after a setback.
So
Oh, yeah, I'm
resilience.
an author as well. I wrote a book and I'm busy finishing on my second book.
Okay, so what's the first book called?
Geluk na ontslag. It's like a happiness after job loss.
Okay, so try if you lean backwards, then the sound fades away. So what was the title again of the book?
Happiness after job loss. Geluk
Okay,
na
now
ontslag.
you're still okay. The sound went away again. So
Oh my
we need.
God. Um, any tips
Yeah,
on what I
it's
could
going back and
adjust?
forth.
Uh, I'll try to speak louder.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, okay. So, should I repeat the title of the book?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Happiness after job loss. Geluk na ontslag.
Ah, okay. So is it only in Dutch or also in English?
Yes, it's only in Dutch, but the next book I'm also going to write in English.
Okay, cool. So, talking about impact, we've heard your story, and I have to say it's an impressive one. And for if I know people, you are in the Amsterdam area, or
Utrecht. Utrecht.
Okay.
Center of the country.
Okay.
Utrecht.
Utrecht. Okay. Yeah, the sound faded away for a sec again. Okay, so for those who do not know, when you have the Netherlands over here and you go right through the middle, up and down, there's Utrecht.
Yes.
So it's actually right in the middle of the country.
Yes.
That's very true. Okay, so if I ever hear about people who could use some support, I'll let them know to find you.
Please do.
So it's very important. By the way, do you know Michael from Wheels and Warriors?
Yes. Yes, we already did a collab video.
Okay, because he, of course, is in a wheelchair, and he wants to empower people. So I guess that so he's actually looking for people to work with together. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
I'll
he
get
just
in touch.
recently posted it. So when it comes to people who have had an impact on your life, whether they are still around or maybe they've passed away, who would it be and what did they teach you?
Then it would definitely be my grandma. She never went to school, not even for a day. Uh, but she taught herself different languages, foreign languages.
Wow.
So she would go to the cinema every Friday and watch all the movies. And that's how she taught herself how to speak English.
Oh, that's amazing.
And she never had any biological children, but I think for 40 or 50 years, there would be 10 children living in her house, which she would raise. So there were a lot of people calling her grandma or mom. And apart from that, she also uh, sold chicken, so she had livestock. She grew her own vegetables. She would bake pies, cookies, all kind of sweets that she would sell. And well, you could hire her to cater for food catering. And you know, I'm like, she did like a zillion things without any education and all to make ends meet and to raise people's children, which of course she didn't get paid for. And I think she was amazing. And
Yeah,
she
she
was
sounds
really,
like an amazing lady.
yes, a huge inspiration. And for her, it was very important that I would get a very good education. My mom as well, but she really instilled that on me, like how important it was that I had a good education and that I would reach my the highest possible level that I could. And um, so it was very important for me that she and my grandpa were present when I finished my university education and studied law. So that was really important for me to have her there. And yeah, well, she was very strict, very loving, but also strict. But I could always get away with anything as long as I said it was homework.
Yep,
Because
that's right
that was the
reason.
magic word, homework.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, she sounds like an amazing lady. Is she still around or did she pass
No,
away?
unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. But on the other hand, she turned 90 and she even, my daughter, my oldest, was 10 when she died. So we had quite some time together. And I knew it was going to be really hard for me when I would lose my grandparents. So even decades ahead, I created time to spend quality time with them. And so it did hit me hard, but I have a lot of great memories to look back on and a lot of inspiration to
Oh,
fuel me.
that's amazing. So, if you would have some advice for people when it comes to um, taking advantage, well, it doesn't entirely sound right. What I mean is, if there's someone who has an impact in your life, you can sit back and see what happens, or you can be proactive, like you were, and and really interact with them, maybe ask them some questions, be involved, because every day could basically be the last day. So what would you advise to people to get the most of it, of people who really matter to you, so that if they unexpectedly are are passing away, or maybe it's the other way around, and you pass away first, um, that there's something to hold on to. What would you say? What would you suggest?
Um, Use your time wisely. What I do now is I try to call at least one elder a week just to talk, to reach out, to make them feel like they I see them. And if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. 9 out of 10 times they're like, "Oh no, I'm just happy just to talk to you," because especially during COVID, they feel lonely. So, uh, yeah, you know what probably drives me the most? I don't want any regrets. If I
Yes,
regret something, it hurts.
yes,
So I'll do anything to prevent feeling regret. So I have to think ahead to make sure I don't regret anything. And that's why I planned ahead. I took at least 20 years with my grandparents to spend extra time with them. I was lucky that they died when they were 90, both of them actually. But because I realized that when they were 70, I still had 20 years. So just make the most of the time.
yeah. Did you see what has been said? It's a lovely act, and I already saw some hearts going when you said I
Yes, from
tried to
Rosie Rose, I
call.
think.
When I call weekly, an elderly at least weekly. So, and I agree. It's like live your day as if it could be the last one. Say, I love you, or I'm grateful for, or I appreciate you, and vice versa. Don't regret. See if you can live your life in a way that when you look back on it, that you don't regret anything you've done or not have done.
Yes,
Probably the latter, not have done.
yes.
So
There was, I don't know if we still have time, but there was a quote that really got to me. And I think I was about 16 when I wrote it. I don't know the exact words, but the bottom line is when you die, you'll regret the things you didn't do over the things that you did do and that failed.
yes. Have you ever heard that the great graveyard is the richest place on earth? Yeah, from
Exactly.
Prince EA. He made a video about it actually, and I guess that basically says it all. And so I'm curious, your grandparents, when they were, almost 90, were they still very active and still undertaking, learning new stuff? Or were they like, okay, in Dutch we would say, give my portion to Vicky, the dog?
Yeah. Well, my grandparents, not so, yeah, I think they were very active until, you know, um, like the last 2 or 3 years. But still, even if they weren't really active, I could still have quality conversations with them. which was very important for me to. I, I would always take out the video camera, and I have tons of videos of them, and I'd be like, okay, so what's the one message you want to share with my kids, even though they're 2 and 3 years old? What would you want to tell them? Or I would always be interviewing them, like, okay, I want you to tell me something that you want me to remember by the time I'm 50. Or
That's so amazing.
So we really had very nice conversations, and we even had a conversation about what they wanted me to do when they died.
Oh, and what was that?
Well, they told me that when the first one died, they wanted me to come because they lived in Suriname, and they said when the second one dies, you don't need to come, double other.
Okay.
Because it's costly and it takes a lot of time, and I already had kids, small kids, and I was sick, and they were like, when the first one dies, you have to be there to support.
Yes.
And to be there for us. But when the second one dies, we're both gone, so no need to come.
Never mind.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so if you have some advice to people out there when it comes to speaking out and impact, because you actually asked the questions when you were behind the video camera. So if you would pass that legacy on to other people, what would you say to them? What would you advise?
Like advice, or like the most important question?
Yeah, whatever pops up, just come with something.
That's a hard one. What would I? Well, let's put it like this. If I could talk to them now, what would be the one thing I would ask them?
Yeah. Well, for other people who still are capable of asking questions, whether it's to their parents or their grandparents, because you have asked so many questions, and maybe it's not even the grandparents, but people who really matter to them. What would you say when it comes to speaking out, having an impact? What would be the most important question, or and maybe it's not the most important question, but what pops up in your mind?
I don't know how to answer this. So I need
Well,
to
you
break through
ask your
that.
grandparents a lot of questions.
Yes, I
Like, for
did.
instance, if I'm a certain age.
They would all say, "Why do you have so many questions?"
Well, just
Yeah. Um, the most what I would ask them for their view on life, and it sounds like a very broad topic, but I think that's what I learned the most from. And to be really involved, I could share a story that my grandpa, I would love to spend time with him, right? And then I would ask my Grandpa, what are you going to do tomorrow? And he'd be like, yeah, I'm going to take care of business. I'm like, take care of business? You're 80 years old. What kind of business do you need to take care of? And then and he'd be like, yeah, you don't know how many business I have to take care of. And I was like, really? So I said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be here at 9 a.m. and I'm going to pick you up. And um, I'll drive you around all day because he would take the bus. Long story, so trying to keep it short. And he would be on his way taking care of business for like 6 hours in 40 degrees sun, and for an 80-year-old man by public transport. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take you. And say, well, okay, Grandpa, what's the first stop? Yes, the first stop is the insurance company. Okay, I dropped him off. I came with him inside. I'm like, what are you doing here? He said, I'm going to pay the insurance. I said, okay, let's go up to the desk. We paid. I'm like, Grandpa, you know what you did? I said, yeah, I paid the insurance. I said, yes, but you basically paid €1 for insurance for an entire month, and you're going to do that again next month. And if something happens, the insurance will probably give you 100 euro, or not even 100 euro. All the money you spend on public transport going back and forth, being in the sun for all day, being exhausted, it's not worth it. but it was so funny to share that experience and to share his perspective. And he was like, yes, but I made a contract, I have an agreement, and I'm going to be here every month. And like, okay, that's another way to look at it. So just to share the experience, because I was looking at it like it's not worth the effort. And he was like, no, but that's who I am.
Cool.
And even if I'm exhausted, I'll be here every end of the month just to pay my bill.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what else did he do during the day?
Oh, well, we only had to take care of stuff like that. And he would spend hours and days just taking care of all kind of stuff what that seemed unimportant to me, but was very important to him. That was a real eye-opening experience, but also just to take him around uh, on my grandma's 80th birthday. She actually went to Curacao to celebrate her birthday. They lived in Suriname, and I knew that they were going. And my daughter was just born, so I decided to go over and surprise them. And I picked them up at the airport, and they were planning to take a taxi. So I was waiting for them at the exit of the airport, and they came out and they were like, they had never been to Curacao. And they were 80 and 85 years old. And they came outside like confused, like, okay, where to go next? And then I was there with my camera and my daughter. And I had rented a villa, I rented a car, and the four of us spent 2 weeks together driving around the island, discovering the island because I had never been there either. And that's kind of like the quality time I created with them. One of the examples, just spending 2 weeks with them, it was golden.
Ah, that's amazing. So did you see what was said? I'm sure that
Yes,
keeping his routine and having a purpose to get up, to go, to do, his commitment and determination was part of what took him all the way. These 80 years of amazing life. I love it.
yes,
A body in
yes.
motion stays in motion. And I'm sure he was an amazing inspiration just hearing the story. It's already inspiring me to continue to get up and go. Yeah, that's
Yes.
sweet. And hi,
And
Kay.
they both turned 90 even. And because you asked whether they were still active, in a way they weren't, and in another way they were.
Hmm.
Like they were still engaged and active with my children, their great grandchildren, and involved. And they would give my mom orders like, buy them this, buy them that. I want to give them this, or take care of this. Make sure that when we die, they come to our house to see where we lived. And yeah,
Yeah, sounds
here they were
amazing.
very active, and they had done hard labor their entire life.
Yeah, yeah, I guess they did. So they probably were born just a little after 1900, 1920 maybe.
Sorry,
I
what?
think they were probably born a little after 1900, maybe 1910.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so they have
Yeah.
been they have been through a lot, and you know the ethics of those people. It's amazing. My parents were actually from 24 and 32, so so they're in Dutch we call it arbeidsethos. and I wouldn't know how to translate it into English. Um,
It's like the values regarding how you work, but
yeah.
also regarding obligations. Just like Francine is stating, the funny thing is his second name was Horatio,
Oh,
which is like honorable, and
yes.
he indeed was a very honorable man.
Yes. Well, he sounds like he is. So, so what is your heritage? Because you don't look like someone who was born in Suriname. You look more like someone from Curacao, or
Oh, you
so.
think?
What's your background?
No, I'm half Chinese and partly African and partly Indian, as in Indian, the original inhabitants of South America, not Indian as
Okay.
in India.
Yes, I get it. I get it. Oh, that's interesting. And so, where were you born originally?
Utrecht. Utrecht.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yes, his middle name was Horatio.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's what was asked.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so and you're probably around my age, maybe a little bit younger, not sure. So, how did it work for you when you were growing up? Because I remember when I was growing up, which was I'm half century old right now. I got bullied because of my black hair and the brown eyes. So, how about you?
I was bullied everywhere,
Okay, same story.
all over the place, all over the place, because I'm older than you are. And I was always the only black kid
Yeah.
in every situation scenario, and then they would call me um like nigger, uh, how do you say that, root mob, like
Hmm. Yeah, the black
blackface.
skin.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they would call me all kinds of words, and that really hurt me. I
Hmm.
would usually cry at least once a day,
Hmm.
and my mom was really fed up with that. But yeah, I encountered a lot of racism. I think the one that was the worst was my teacher, my Dutch teacher, because we had, of course, Dutch every day.
Hmm.
You had a Dutch class, and he would remind me every day that nothing would, I would never amount to anything. I was no good. I was stupid. And, that's the way he spoke to me. And every day. And I never really understood at that age why. And I was more focused on, I wanted to get his approval that I did something right. So I kept on working and working, but he'd always fail me. And I would have very bad um, uh, scorecards for the Dutch language and always felt like, oh, I was unable to speak Dutch well enough or write Dutch well enough until I did my exam because he failed me again at my exam. And the funny thing is, in the Netherlands, when you do an exam at high school, um, you also have another teacher who doesn't know you, who also grades your papers.
Yes.
And he gave me a very good grade.
Yes.
And that's how I passed my exam because
Yeah.
my teacher gave me a very bad grade.
Yeah, that's
And there
horrible.
were at least 4 digits difference between the
Yeah.
grades. And that's how
So
I
did
passed.
anyone notice the difference?
No, but the worst thing is that I met a girl, a Moroccan girl, about 20 years after I left that high school. And when I found out she was in the same high school, you talk. And I asked her, does this teacher still teach the Dutch language at that school? And she said, yes. And I said, in retrospect, I wonder if he was a racist.
I think he
I was
was.
the only one. And then she replied, oh, yes, he's a racist because now half of the class is black and he does it to half of the class. And that
Yeah,
was 20 years after I left school.
yeah, yeah. And probably a lot of the young people now, well, it depends, but a lot of their parents, especially the Moroccan kids, their parents didn't speak proper Dutch. So they already had a delay when it comes to learning Dutch. But I suppose that didn't apply to you. So and that's the sad thing. So they basically look at skin color. Fortunately, I didn't have that experience. I went to school and there were two Indonesian, Dutch Indonesian kids. I was one of them. Of course, I got called these names. In retrospect, I learned that these were the same names that have been said to people from Indonesia for over 50 years. So those who came in the 50s and the 60s in the Netherlands, who were part of the Dutch colony, of course, got those same nicknames. And by the way, I'm not going to list them here. They're different from yours, but I guess they were the same for Asian people. So, and for those who do not know much about the Netherlands and who are watching, um, imagine that when I went to school, so that was late. When did I go to school? 75. When I went to kindergarten, I finished high school in 89. By that time, there was one person who, I don't know where he was from. He was called Rajesh, and he was dark. He had really dark skin. And yes, I'll admit I made a comparison with Black Pete because he was so dark. But he was the most funny guy, and he was smart. He was smart. And what I remember most about him, it was not only that he was smart, but he didn't want to learn English. He said, I'm going to learn French, which made sense, by the way, because of his background.
Yes.
So that was, but he was the only one. And of course, I had one friend from Suriname as well. So she was, we were together at elementary school. And that was about it. So when I went to high school, there were like, well, maybe two of us again, who were Indonesian, two or three. That was about it. And then of course Regis came along, and that was about it. So we didn't get multicultural the way we are. Of course, there were Chinese people already, and people from Suriname. So basically, a lot of the Dutch colony, people from Dutch colonies were here. But I guess the people from Turkey and Morocco, they came over here in the 90s,
The
I suppose.
70s, 70s, late 70s.
Yeah, but the kids, they probably came over here in the 90s because
Yes,
they were reunited with their family.
yes,
But
exactly.
you just didn't see it. So I do remember when I was growing up, now you say so, when I was still in high school, I would be on my bike, and then people um, with that background would actually cycle next to me, and they would be, well, now I would say they were really old. They were like 40 or 50, and they would, hey, there's a girl, and she's wearing shorts. That's interesting. And they would, really cycle next to me, put their hand on my leg, that stuff. That's like, so I learned from a young age. I need to be careful. So here's a question, and I'm curious. So my mom is from Indonesia, so that's my looks. So my dad is the one who was Dutch. So he was 2 meters, 6'6", big guy, big hands. Two fingers of mine were one of his. So he had brown greenish eyes. My mom's eyes were darker than mine were. They were basically, actually on her passport it listed as black. They weren't black, by the way. They were brown, but that's what they looked like. Um, And so we didn't have many pictures back in the days, you know. We still had those cameras where with the Polaroid cameras and all that stuff. You remember, and it was very expensive. You didn't see what you had shot. It was, you know, like a gamble. What's going to look like. So every time I would look at a group picture, I would be surprised to see myself there with the dark skin and the dark eyes because I felt Dutch, like blonde and blue eyes. Did you have
You
similar
don't look at
experience? Or?
yourself. You don't. You when you look, you see all white people.
Yeah,
So you think you look like that as well
yes,
because you don't see yourself when you're looking at them.
yeah. Okay, so you had similar experience. That's cool. Yeah, of course. Now I'm used to it because we see one another. You know, we take selfies and all that stuff. But it wasn't actually, and that's a true story. You know, I've become part of a community, and it's about a certain actor, and he's got brown eyes, fair skin. He's Italian, his background Italian and American, and so everyone was going on about his beautiful brown eyes, and it was like, that's weird. And then at some point I was like, okay, it's actually okay. It's cool to have brown eyes, you know. And it wasn't until I actually saw people repeating it over and over and over again that I realized that my standard of blue eyes or green eyes, that was basically my standard. And that so this um, this December I made these Christmas smiley angels, and usually, if I would draw the smiley, I wouldn't color the eyes. But if I would have done it, it would have been either blue or green. And this time I made them brown. Like, okay, that's good. So that's uh, yeah.
That's
So
very insightful. What age were you then?
sorry.
How old were you when that happened?
Well, that happened recently.
What?
We're talking about this Christmas.
Oh, this Christmas.
This
Oh,
Christmas.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So this Christmas I made the Christmas smiley angel to give to other people, so to show them the support to others who were alone during Christmas. Hey, Michael. So that's why I said it was amazing. It took me this long, 50 years, you know, to come to the realization like it's okay because, like I said, we weren't used to it. So. So, do
Oh
you have
my
some
God.
questions? Yes.
The same thing. I think it's max 10 years now that I'm always referring to God as a woman.
Oh,
No
that's
one
nice.
has seen God. So who says it's a man?
Yeah, true. Well, I basically deconverted altogether, but I agree with you. You
It's the
know,
same perspective, like you're in a kind of a mold thinking, and like, okay, brown eyes are beautiful as well. Let's just go
yeah,
in green. It's like going across borders or boundaries.
yes, yeah, that's so true. You know, nowadays it's funny because and probably you have the same experience. I can go basically everywhere, and they think I'm, you know, when I go to Spain, I'm Spanish. When I go to France, I'm French. You know, when I go to the US, I'm probably somewhere between Mexican and I don't know.
You are
It
local.
doesn't
I
matter
think
where
I
I
believe
go.
that
I'm just
half
not
part of the
Dutch.
world, half of the world, you are local.
Yeah, lots of people in the Netherlands actually think I'm Turkish.
Yes, I already thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, so there are a few out there who make the comparison with India, so Indian, and Portugal, because I actually have my great grandmother's eyes, and she came from Portugal. So a lot of people went to Indonesia, French people, Dutch people, like more Dutch people, even more Dutch people, and there were some French and Portuguese people too. And so it's a whole bunch of a lot of Dutch in there. Actually, so I guess that's what's the traveler in me is, from the Dutch origin.
Yes,
So is there
exactly.
anything else you want to add when it comes to impact, or maybe ask me, or
Hmm, um, maybe there is. Your question, like who inspired you?
Mhm.
There were two people, apart from my grandma and my grandpa. I had an uncle, and I loved him dearly. And when I was 16, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And he, that was very long time ago, about 50 years ago. Yeah, almost 50, no, not 50 years, 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. And he died 30 years later. But ever since he was diagnosed with cancer, he decided to enjoy life. And before that, it was such a grumpy old man. He was really hard to get along with. Every time, I was the only person in the entire family that could get along with him or that could ask him anything. But he was really hard to get along with. And then when he was diagnosed with cancer, it was like a complete transformation. And he decided to enjoy life from that day on. That's where the not regret inspiration comes from for me. And that was a huge inspiration. That made a lot of impact on me to uh, be that conscious of life and how to spend it and to enjoy life. He would get up in the morning and be like, "Ooh, I so want to go to Carnival in Curacao. I'm going to book a ticket. You know what? How about we go to Miami next week?" And then he would buy a ticket and go to Miami.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense because he didn't know how long he would live.
Yes, but
But
he
30
still lived.
years still.
Yes, exactly, for 30 years. And the funny thing is that, well, funny. Yeah, it's kind of funny. By the time the cancer came back, it actually came back in his head. And
Oh,
that that's when it scared him. And that's why I think he died, because the his way of thinking when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, it took him for another 28 years to be happy and healthy. And then when it scared him, that was the start of the decline. And so it actually impaired his vision. And then the doctors told him, you should be ready to accept that you won't be able to see anymore. Your vision will be gone completely in just a matter of months. And then he received cancer treatment. They said, well, we could do that, but probably to no avail. And then he saw again. and
that's
then
amazing.
and then it was in his back. And they said, well, you should be prepared. You won't be able to walk again. And then he walked again, like nothing happened. So then the last time that he felt really sick, I was like, oh, I'm just dropping by to see how he's doing, but I know he'll be fine. And then he died.
Okay, yeah. It's when you don't expect it, that's when they go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have your strength and your resilience really from your family. I mean, all the stories you're sharing is about strength and making the most of it. And even when you aren't offered anything, just go look for other solutions. I mean, like your grandmother going to movies, just to learn languages. And what you basically did, figuring out, okay, so if those hormones aren't working the way they should, then what can I at least do to do some core training, core strength training, So that sounds amazing, and also what you're sharing about your uncle. I mean, it's really very inspirational. So, what's your one word?
I knew you were going to ask
Yeah,
that.
because you've
So
talked about bouncing
actually,
back.
my name in on oh my God, Discord is resilience,
Yeah, makes sense.
because that's my one word. But I'm in doubt whether it should be resilience, bounce back, or reinvention, because
I
that's
like
taking it
reinvention
to
better.
another, yes, to the next level. And I feel like that's what I'm doing. I'm using every setback to grow even further. And that's what I love most to do as a coach, is to help people to transcend to the next level and be another better version of themselves.
Yes, I love it. Reinvention,
So I
transforming,
should change my
transcendence.
Discord name.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds cool. Yeah, my one word is inclusion. Uh, inclusion.
Oh, love that.
And
Love
you
that.
probably get it like no one else. And
I love
we
that.
can list, our skin color and hair color. Well, my skin color is of course not that different, but compared to the average Dutch one, you are like, we say in Dutch they have a skin like a milk bottle, so it's pure white. And of
Exactly.
course, I
Exactly.
always have a little bit of a tan. Um, yeah, that,
Let
and
me
of
share
course,
a funny story regarding, especially because you are Indonesian by background. My husband works at university, is specialized in herbal plants, or plants with a medicinal power. Not the correct word, but you probably get what I mean.
mhm,
And so once he had a student who had to collect plants in Indonesia,
mhm,
and he was Dutch. He is Dutch, very, very fair skin, and then he had long legs, which is, of course, out of character, or very unfamiliar for Indonesian people who tend to be more short. And then he would wear really short shorts. So there was a lot of white skin, and then he would go out to collect plants, and then the whole village would rush out to look at his baby skin, because
yeah.
that's what they call it in Indonesia, baby skin.
That's so funny.
They would try and touch him, and then in no time he would be surrounded by the entire village, and the people would be like, "Oh, baby skin, let's touch it." It was,
Oh, that's really funny.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when we were in Australia, by the like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, when I got married. Um, um, my husband then, he was Indonesian too, but he was the one with the blonde hair and the dark green eyes. So he was a mix. His father came from Groningen, so the blonde with blue eyes, and his mother actually was a mixture of Indonesian and Sri Lanka, Ceylon. She had the dark hair and blue eyes, by the way, blue eyes. Yes,
Interesting combination.
yeah, that was a very amazing combination. So there he came, and he had these white legs, and so we got married on the beach, feet in the water, and the one who was doing the service, he said like, okay, yeah, those are the European legs. That's what he called them.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. So
Amazing story.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah. And he always had to take care because he would get burned really easily, of course. So yeah. So anything else you want to share while we're still on
I
live, or
I shared so much already.
Okay, well, maybe you want to ask something.
It's okay like this. Unless there's any question I didn't answer or questions that you still have.
Well, I think we discussed a lot. We discussed a
Yes.
lot. I mean, I assume people now know how resilient you are. You're a very strong woman. You've experienced a lot. We also know that if people are living in near Utrecht, and I'm not going to try and have people say that, they will probably say Utrecht anyhow. Um, they should go and see you, work out with you.
Please do.
So that's good. And of course, you coach people too. You need to bounce back, find another job or whatever it is. Um, so if there's one dream you have right now, maybe you're already working on it, maybe you're not, but it's something you say, if I have achieved this, life is good. What would that be?
I think on the short term, it would be to publish and sell my book successfully.
The second one you're writing
Yes,
right now? Okay.
yes.
Did you see what was said? I truly enjoyed this time with you ladies. Great sharing. It's sweet.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it is so much fun talking. And this is for the people who are watching. This is our first real conversation.
Yeah, this is our
All
first
we did
live.
prior was just sending messages on WhatsApp.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, who is she? What is she doing? And I wasn't sure about your if you were working for a boss or not. So I remember I was sending you something, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if you're an entrepreneur or not. So so that's why I literally said I'm making the assumption you're working for a boss, but I'm not sure. It was so funny. And it had to
Yes,
do
it
with the
was.
times you were working, actually, the hours that you were working. Like, okay, those seem pretty fixed, and that's how that's what made me think so. So when you said I'm an entrepreneur too, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah.
Yeah.
So now I think we should wrap it up. Um, for the people who are wondering, did you make a lead magnet yourself about impact or not? Are you
Not
planning
yet.
on doing it?
Not yet. I am busy writing a proposal for a grant. So busy on doing that. But I will. I just need to get it in my head. You know,
Okay.
I'll be walking. I'll be walking outside, thinking about the script or what subjects I would like to talk about and go over it, and then I'm ready. Right now, my head is full with the proposal.
Yeah. What I started doing was so my topic is about giving people a voice. So it's basically speaking out, and so I try to use the theme of the month in combination with speaking out. So I've got these lives on Wednesdays nowadays. By the way, they are at 1 o'clock on Thursday morning. That's time. Because I primarily speak with an audience from the US and Canada. Um, but yeah, this month, so I've had 3 shows now, and the last 2 have been about the impact of speaking out and the importance of doing so. Um, so if people want to see it, they could go there. And I actually created this speak magnet. So I shared the impact of speaking out. So I don't know, maybe you could do something with bouncing back or resilience
Yes,
combined with
Can I
impact.
see
So,
it? Can
and
you send it to me?
yeah, sure. So I wrote down 7 steps for impact, and they actually line up nicely, A to G. So first
Awesome.
7, and then I shared my story. So here's my story, and some examples of the importance of speaking out. So, but if
Great.
you ever want to be part of my panel on Wednesdays, but I think you're asleep at around 1 o'clock, you'd be very welcome.
Yes, I am. At least I hope to be, because
Yeah.
it definitely is one of the things I want to work on this year, is to go to bed earlier.
Hmm. Yeah, I basically am on Eastern time most of the time. So I get up late, and sometimes I'm still awake early morning, and I go to sleep like 9 in the morning. But that's way too late, of course. But joining the shows from Zen and Bonnie and Terry, they basically start at either 1 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock at night. So, and then they go on for another 2 hours. And I've always been a night owl. So, regardless of at what time I get up and whether I'm tired or not, at 10, 11, when everyone starts to, then I go, hey, hello. Yeah, exactly. And then I start talking and chatting. It's weird, but that's the way I work. So, well, I'm looking forward to see what you're going to come up with, and so it's will be bouncing back or will be resilience.
The title of the new book, you mean?
No, 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 no. When you use the theme of the month, would you say it's impact in combination with resilience or impact with bouncing back?
A good question. You kind of triggered me to use impact, like who impacted me,
Hmm.
or use it in the interview like who impacted you.
Yeah.
That's an option. Um, and also like in combination with resilience, um, like what events impacted my life other
Hmm.
than people.
Hmm.
And then, of course, I would go into resilience and reinvention, or I could do COVID.
Yeah, that's a good
Like,
one.
yeah, because that's a
That's a really
huge
good one.
impact on everyone.
Yes,
So that's an
yes,
option as well.
yeah. When you go to Inside the Readers Group, um, you probably meet Mary Ma, and she's from Cameroon, and she's now living currently in Canada, and she's been writing a book about COVID and the impact on people it has.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, so yeah, and my goal is to have people still speak out during COVID, so they don't, you know, harm themselves, start hurting others, all that stuff. So, so thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time out. I enjoyed this conversation immensely. And again, if you would ever be awake at 1 o'clock on, well, from Wednesday and Thursday, you're welcome to join me on my
I most
YouTube or
definitely will
Facebook
let
Live.
you know. And thank you. I had an amazing time as well.
Okay. Well, see you soon again.